All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I have one comment here from MostFet99, and that comment says, wow, first time coming across the word anti-natalist. Okay, so I think that's a new word. It's a new word for a lot of people. Okay, so I don't intend to go long tonight, but I had not live streamed over here in a while, and this is a term that I came across recently, and I'm going to explain that after the intro. But I think, yeah, it's a good topic for my science channel, and there is a lot going on in the world right now. We have the presidential debate tomorrow night between Uncle Joe and Don Cheeto. And there are just a lot of things going on right now. I kind of feel like this country, and maybe I shouldn't say this online, but this country, and maybe to some degree, to a large degree, the world feels like one big powder keg that's about to blow. And I'm thinking about the thing Louisiana just did, where they signed the law, where they signed into law putting the 10 Commandments up back in their schools, which some people are applauding that, and some people are saying that's a violation of church and state. But as I will describe to you all of these things, the politics, the culture, the religion, the science, the environmentalism, all these things are interconnected. Yep, all these things are interconnected, and it's not until you watch multiple discussions, it's not until you watch multiple symposiums, it's not until you watch multiple authors and activists and politicians and scientists that you start to see how everything is interconnected. And a lot of what we're seeing is not necessarily by chance. A lot of this, what I'm learning, has all been predetermined and pre-calculated and premeditated. Aquatechi's here. Aquatechi's here. I just queued these up for you, Aquatechi.
Your side of Decepticons is prime.
For the uninitiated, when you're a YouTube content creator, you create drops and salutes for the people who support you the most and consume your content the most. So let me, I'm going to share this over on my original channel, and then I will jump in. And so guys, just bear with me for a second. Thank you for being here. Let me know what you think about this as I go along. Let me know what you think about any of this now. You guys, watch The Master Teacher. I'm sure he's mentioned this term. I'm certain he's mentioned this term already, but it's not something that a lot of people know about. So it is foreign. So I will give this a like. Let's see. So let me create a community post. All right, so that is shared over there. So let me go back to my channel so I can see all of the metadata roll in real time. All right, I'm going to play the intro. We're going to get started with a little bit of Dr. Patrick Dix tonight. And I think that the rise of automation and artificial intelligence and machine learning, I think this is an appropriate introduction, because if you don't have people, if you have fewer people on the planet, then there are some tasks that are still going to need to be done for the people who are left. And you have to, when you think about all this, some people are counting on there being less people on the planet Earth. So I will see you guys on the other side of the intro. Please smash that like button no matter how long you stay. If anyone wants to make a donation to the channel, my Cash App and PayPal are here. Most Def, thank you for being here. This as I'll describe, again, the first debate between President Biden and former President Trump is tomorrow, and everybody is just so distracted. Folks are distracted by the balloon pop show, the plumber guy, the master plumber. Folks are distracted by sports. I'm guilty of that. There's so many things that we as the people are distracted by. And the news, the mainstream news, they don't tell us everything. They don't tell us everything in its entirety. And I appreciate you guys being here, because this is not, unfortunately, stuff like this does not appeal to everybody, especially those in our community and from our background. So this is reaching you guys, but please share this out, because people need to know what's going on. Okay. This environment, this world, shout out to Diamond Dave. It's curated. Nothing that we're seeing is happening by chance. A lot of this has been pre-calculated and premeditated. Okay. We're going to start with a little bit of Dr. Patrick Dix, and then I will start and jump in. I won't be long tonight, but this is something I wanted to do because I want to spend the majority of this upcoming weekend editing my book. So a little bit of Dr. Patrick Dix.
It's impacting the self-driving cars, the self-checkout aisles. It's impacting warehouses, because I shared an article, I think it was some weeks ago, about how Walmart, their distribution centers, they're making them full automated. Those are the main ones, manufacturing. It's even affecting healthcare. And those are just some of the fields to name. It's impacting everything. Self-service, you have your Amazon, you have your driverless cars. Those are the big ones that I focus on, because, and administrative jobs. You have a lot of people, a lot of women that work administrative jobs. That's automation. There are a lot of fields that are going to be eliminated.
Welcome to Big Discussions 76, Science and Technology. Science and technology stories are all around us, and there are always science and technology stories to tell. There are always science and technology stories to tell. So that intro, that was me and Dr. Patrick Dix talking about automation and machine learning. And that might have been the stream where he introduced the article, The Rise of the Useless Class. Okay, so there's a lot going on right now. Many of the Western countries are looking at negative replacement rates in terms of population. Okay, not everybody knows that this is going on. Okay, a lot of boomers, baby boomers, my parents, you guys in the chat, I think we're probably the same generation. A lot of them are looking around and saying, hey, no one's having children. There are no grandchildren. There are no younger people around. And it's foreign to them because they grew up in a certain era where that was normal. But as many of you know, environments change. That's one of the master teachers' central teachings. And that's something I've come to understand and respect. If you change the environment, you're going to change the outcomes of things. If you change the economies, if you change the economy that you're living in, you're going to change the outcomes of things. If you change the social norms, if you change the culture, you're going to get vastly different outcomes. So I mentioned, you guys there in the chat, let's make this interactive. So I mentioned before playing the Dr. Dix intro Louisiana just signed into law putting the Ten Commandments back in schools. I don't know if it was there before. I know that prayer in schools was normal 50 to 60 years ago. They took that out by the time I was in school. But for my boomer parents and my aunts and uncles, that was normal. Prayer in school. Who knows? And I spent a lot of time thinking. I spent a lot of time thinking in my solitude. Who out there can tell me, on the same vein of prayer in schools and on the same vein of this country, because you're hearing a lot of this now, especially with this particular thing, this country was built on Judeo-Christian ethics. Okay. What is another central teaching of Christianity? Who out there can answer that question? What's another central teaching of that? And arguably of the Hebrew religions. What's another central teaching of those? Anybody? Aquateki, Andre, J.E., Fet 99. What's one of the central teachings of the Hebrew religions, the Christianity, the J.E.? That's right, but I'm thinking there's a specific directive that, well, if you believe in it, God gave to man. What is it? I mean, you're hitting upon it, Jay, but what is it? It's be something and do something else. Anybody? J.E., there you go. You got it. You got it exactly right. Be fruitful and multiply. Right. So as much Christianity takes a lot of criticism. Okay. And I've seen it in society. I've seen it in my family. I've seen it all around. But as I've been looking around at everything happening in our country and happening in our world, I've realized that that's a central teaching. And the light bulb turns on for certain things at different times in your life. But with what we're facing now in this world, in this country, you realize, okay, you know what? That was a central teaching of that faith. And so when you're looking at these movements and you're looking at all these warring parties and factions, that is kind of at the center of states like Louisiana putting those 10 commandments back in the classroom. That's arguably at the center of the Supreme Court decisions for Roe versus Wade. So, and this is at the center of the immigration thing. Okay, it's being framed, the immigration thing has been framed as, well, going back to religion, one way they were able to sell it to certain people. Hold on a second. Got a little critter flying around my camera here. It's distracting me. Going back to religion, the whole immigration thing, for some people, it's been sold as, well, we're Christians, so we're expected to take care of the less fortunate. We're expected to be better. We're expected to open up our doors and let in the less fortunate. So it's been sold that way to some people. Okay. But what's the immigration really about? You guys out there, what's the immigration really about? What are some other reasons? It's been sold that way with the people opening up the border and letting all these people pour into our country. What's it really about? UFO Kamikaze, thank you for stopping through. It's been a while since I've live streamed. You've been another one of the regulars over here. Thank you. The immigration, what's it really about? That they're not telling everybody. Anybody. Aquateki, bingo. Okay, the politicians know it. the corporate sector, they know it, okay? And you cannot have a thriving economy and a growing country with a decreasing population. Okay. Why is the population decreasing? That's a whole different can of worms, which our politicians don't want to talk about openly. But that's in large part what the immigration is about. It's not about being good Samaritans. It's not about being good Christians. It's about, we need bodies in here to pay into Social Security. Okay. We need people to work these lower paying jobs. Okay. We need people. Okay. Now, some of the other sectors, some of you all, well, most of you all, I think, are melanated like me. If you've heard the teachings of Dr. Claude Anderson, you know that one of his theories is that particularly the left side of the political spectrum, they want to create a buffer class, and they want to replace a black vote, which seems to be peeling away from the donkey side. So there are multiple things going on here, but the big driver, my opinion right now, the big driver of this massive influx of people from south of the border into the country has to do with making sure there are people here in the country. Okay. All right. So there are multiple things going on. So shout out to, again, Diamond Dave. Diamond Dave, he said that he expressed something taught by Dr. Amos Wilson, which is that our environment, nothing is happening by chance. Everything is curated. Okay. Everything has been pre-calculated, and a lot of what we're looking at has been thought out by somebody. So I mentioned that we are distracted by the Master Plumber and the Pop the Balloon show, things like that, things like the Atlanta judge getting arrested, things like Fannie Willis, okay, and then TikTok, social media, Instagram, sports, and I'm guilty of that as well. I'm a sports guy, but we're distracted, so a lot of people don't really see what's going on. But our leaders, our political leaders, our world leaders, the United Nations, the World Bank, the G7, the World Economic Forum, when those leaders get together, what they're talking about is us. They're looking around at the world, and they're looking at whose populations are growing. They're looking at how many resources there are for everybody. They're looking at wars. They're looking at famines. They're looking at whether or not there'll be enough food to feed everybody. They're considering anthropogenic climate change. They're looking at us. They're looking at everybody, and they're making decisions on us. We're distracted here on the ground looking at Pop the Balloon or Find Love and Master Plumbers, but they're looking at us as sheeple, and they're deciding what to do. Okay. And so for a while, going back to the 1960s and 70s, the concern started that there would be too many humans on the planet Earth. Okay. And I did a live stream a while ago. Please smash that like button if you haven't. Go back to my library if you want to learn some more about Dr. Paul Ehrlich. I did a live stream earlier this year about Dr. Paul Ehrlich. Okay, Dr. Paul Ehrlich, I first learned about him as an undergraduate at Johnson C. Smith University. He was an ecologist. He was a butterfly ecologist. Okay, and he wrote the book, The Population Bomb, in the 1970s. Okay, so he was one of the first prominent people to kind of say, you know what if there are too many humans on the planet Earth? the earth won't be able to sustain everybody. So the fact that we just witnessed a baby boom, that's a problem. That's a concern. Maybe it's not a good idea to have too many humans. So we have to do something about this. Okay? If there are too many humans, they're going to overwhelm the environment. People are going to starve. Okay? So there have been people thinking about this for many years ago. Okay? If your family wasn't privy to science, like many Black families aren't, then nobody would know that this was going on. Before him, it was also Thomas Malthus. Thomas Malthus was an economist. He was also worried about the same thing. What if we get to a point where there are too many humans on the planet Earth? That's going to be a problem. Okay, what can we do about it? So it seems as though, as my father would say, it seems to me that, while we were going on about our lives, while our parents were going on about their lives, having us, for example, thinking that generations would just go on and on and on and on and on, there were also people thinking, okay, well, there's a danger to having too many humans here. So when you look at all the social movements over the years in this country and in others, all the social changes, okay, we talked about the 10 Commandments being put back up in schools. When you look at all these things being uncoupled and changed, you kind of have to wonder if all of this was intentional to somehow cull the population back down. Are you guys following me here? You guys picking up what I'm putting down? Okay. And I hate to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but when you're looking around at everything and you start to piece all this together, you start to say, okay, well, I don't think all of this is by chance. Okay, so the current world population, I'm going to move on because I don't want to be on all night. So does anybody know, well, before I show it, does anybody know what the current world population is? The current world population. Does anybody know what it is out there? And I think I'll take this chance to say that while someone gives an answer. I think a lot of you guys know me from the Black Manosphere, though I am considered Manosphere adjacent now. But there are many sectors of YouTube besides the Black Manosphere. And I spend a lot of time on this channel watching other science content creators. And one of my favorite channels right now is Demystify Science. Okay, if you guys haven't heard of that, look that up. Demystify Science. It is a white gentleman and his wife who are out in California, and they host a lot of guests. The first one I watched was Dr. Richard Lindzen. That takes us into the climate space. You guys should know, especially with all the campaigning that's about to happen, you guys should know who Dr. Richard Lindzen is. He's I guess he's been classified as a climate denier. But anytime someone's messaging is being suppressed, there's a reason their messaging is being suppressed. Anyway, that's a channel I've watched quite a bit. I've watched a lot of talks by Dr. Judith Curry. You guys should know who that is as well. I want to read one of her books, Dr. Judith Curry, because contrary to what a lot of people are saying, there is no consensus on what's happening with the climate. Okay, there is no consensus. There are actually a lot of debates about what's happening with the climate and why, the what and the why. There's no agreement about what's happening. And if people tell you there's an agreement, they're lying to you. Okay. The current world population Aquateki, this is close. He says 6 to 7 billion. Okay. The current world population, drum roll, everybody, is 7.951 billion. That was in 2022. As a scientist, I would round that up to 8. So we are right around 8 billion people on the planet Earth. So I think the assumption was that that number would double to 14 billion. Okay. But if you listen to science talks, if you listen now about what's happening as a species, we're not going to make it to 14 billion. Okay. The prediction right now is that we're gonna plateau off where we are right now, and then it's gonna decrease, which I think as I described, I think some people want that. Some people want that. Most of the Western countries are below replacement. Okay. And from what I'm hearing, the only place that's experiencing population increase is sub-Saharan Africa. Okay. Sub-Saharan Africa. Okay. And most of the Western countries are. Okay. And if you look around, you can see it. And if you look at many of the changes that have taken place since the late 1960s and early 1970s, when you think about it, it all kind of makes sense. How? Does anyone remember the line from Boys in the Hood when they were when Furious took my Black people here know this. If you're watching this and you're not from Black America, you wouldn't know this. But there's a scene from Boys in the Hood when Lawrence Fishburne takes Cuba Gooding Jr., Trey, and Ricky, played by Morris Chestnut, into the hood in front of a city sign. And Furious was a smart guy. He read a lot. And he said he discussed the quickest way to kill off a race. But in this instance, we're talking about a species. What is the quickest way to kill off a species, everybody? Does anybody know? What's the quickest way to kill off a species? Any takers out there? Or to decrease a species? What's the most efficient way? I mean, we're talking about it right now. What's the best way to kill off a species, a sexual species? Okay, no takers. I think we've gotten a little bit shy. You take away their ability to reproduce. So you cut off the reproduction. Aquateki, you got it. Okay. So there are numerous ways to do that. You can kill off one gender, or you can confuse the reproductive process. And there are multiple ways to confuse and stop the reproductive process. You can do it with a pill. Okay. And we've seen that. I was watching Louise, I can't think of her name. Give me a second. Let me look it up really quickly. I was just watching this yesterday. It's Louise something or other. She's British. Today, yesterday, Monday. Her name is not in the title. It's Louise. It's Louise something or other. She's a British woman, but she's making the rounds. But you can confuse a species' ability to reproduce with medication. You can kill off one gender, cause a lot of inner city crime in the Black community, kill off a lot of the men, or socially, you can change the culture, you can change the environment, and you can undo things that were in place before, and socially you can do that. Let's see. Aquateki said prevent reproducing. Okay, and then he says, or enact policies that affect people's desire to reproduce, or you can do things like ship all your manufacturing overseas so that it becomes impossible to live. Okay, they're all, and in that regard, you can have the young people say, okay, well, I can't afford to support myself. Why would I I can't support myself. How can I support a child? Or, well, I think I'll stop there at this point. But the other one, which we're going to get to, is you can convince everybody that humans are killing the earth. Okay. And if you start teaching that, if you start preaching that humans are bad and humans are killing the earth, then you can socially and mentally have people thinking that reproducing would be evil. Okay, so you can re-engineer how people think about reproduction and get them to not reproduce. Okay, I'm going to show one thing before we jump into the antinatalism. Just as a testament to how many movements there are out there now, I did a stream on this a couple of months ago. There is a carbon dioxide coalition, and this is just to drive home the fact that there are multiple movements out there now. Okay, the news is only covering certain things, but there is a carbon dioxide coalition. This is their webpage. You guys can look this up. It says providing the facts about carbon dioxide and climate change. Okay, so while you have a number of people trying to ring the bell saying, okay, we're killing the earth, we're putting too much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, there are other groups saying that, you know what, everything is fine, carbon dioxide is plant food. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, so I've talked about Paul Ehrlich, I've talked about thinning the herd, as UFO Kamikaze said, and let's talk about antinatalism. So I stumbled upon this term a couple of weeks ago. I told you guys I listen to multiple science discussions now, and this one, I heard about this one in an environment, in a climate discussion. Okay, and some of the climate alarmists, quote unquote, because there are two camps, there are climate deniers, quote unquote, and climate alarmists. Some of the environmentalists, the climate alarmists, they're of the opinion that there are too many humans. Okay, and too many humans are a bad thing. And having fewer humans will be better for the planet. And that's when I can't remember, it might have been on Demystify Science, but it might have been in someone else's talk. But that's the first time I heard the name anti-natalist, and the anti-natalists want fewer humans on the planet. So let's do some vocabulary. What does that word mean? So we have the root word natal. Who knows what natal means? Which one of you geniuses know what natal means? What does that root word mean? What does natal mean? I'm pulling up a picture here to show it. I've got two answers there. I'm just trying to find a my baby in the womb picture. I'm trying to find it. I have a nice picture here of a baby, of a fetus. What does natal mean? I see my heart. I see liver, kidneys. Just bear with me, guys. Red blood cells. And I hope YouTube leaves this up. Sometimes I told you guys this channel was removed at one point. YouTube was gracious enough to put it back up. But if they don't like something you're talking about, they will remove the content and remove the channel. I can't. Oh, there it is. Let's look at your answers here. Natal, birth, as in nativity, no swirl zone, child, infant, birth. Natal means birth. Yeah, so natal means birth. Okay, so if you hear the term prenatal, excuse me, prenatal, that means pre-birth. That usually means a fetus in the womb or developing offspring in the a developing child in the womb. Postnatal typically means post-birth. That's a neonate. That's a toddler, a baby, a toddler. Okay, a developing young person. So prenatal, postnatal. Okay, and this is where a lot of the controversy surrounding abortion comes in, because at what stage does at which stage is a fetus alive? It's in the prenatal phase, but at which point is that a living person? Some people believe that's not a living person until it is born and delivered outside of the mother. Prenatal, postnatal. So now we have pronatal, which means pro-birth, pro-babies. And now we're going to talk about antinatal. So no babies. Babies bad. More humans is bad. Okay. Antinatal. So what is that? So with a simple Google search, you guys can look this up as well. A warning. How do they do on TV? A warning. Some of this might be a little bit disconcerting to those of you watching. This is a mature subject. Children under X age should not watch this. Okay. So if you've never heard of this before, yeah, for some of you guys, this might be a little bit alarming. Those of you watching on the playback, this might be a little bit alarming to you, but this is a real thing and it's out there. That's the purpose of this stream. That's to provide awareness. Okay. So when you think about ecology, you're thinking about different species living together. One question is, how do you control levels of species? So antinatalism, this link is in the description box. It'll be there unless YouTube takes it away. There is a lot of content on this page. I'm not going to read through all of this. I'm going to stop at certain points, and then I'm going to sprint through and show you another one. But this is a real thing. This is out there. CNN's not talking about it. MSNBC's not talking about it. So if you don't know what this is, it's flying under the radar. And, if certain people get into high positions at universities and in government, they can start to implement these policies. So I'm doing this to raise awareness. Antinatalism. Okay, real talk, philosophy, artwork. This line says, should we or should we not have children? This is an extremely difficult question to answer. So is it a difficult question to answer? Okay, so my parents' generation, those before them, this was not a hard question. It's what you're supposed to do. Okay, But I doubt that my parents or those who came before them, and your parents as well, I doubt that they pondered whether or not there were too many humans on the planet. Okay. All right. So let's go back. Okay. I'm going to read this. Why do I want to have children? Because I want to, because that's what's expected of me, because life is inherently good, because I want to share the experience of love and care that I had when I was a child. Why do I not want to have children? Because humans are terrible for the world, because the world is turning into a much scarier place, because life is suffering. Especially today, we are facing more difficult challenges than perhaps we've ever seen before. Humans are destroying the planet, enslaving, maiming, and killing other animals, and we are killing each other. Introductory discussion questions. Do you have or want to have children? Why or why not? Is it ethically moral? Is it ethically morally right to have children? Should there be fewer people? Is human life distinct from non-human life, from non-human animal life? Okay, so what is antinatalism? So you guys see that right there, that picture, that kind of gets to part of the motivation for these people. Save our planet. Humans are bad. Humans are killing the earth. Okay. The word antinatalism comes from a combination of the words anti, whose Greek origin is opposed to, against, opposite of, and natalis, from the Latin word pertaining to birth or origin, and natus, the Latin verb to be born. Antinatalism is a philosophical position that opposes birth. As Heinrich Heine, the 19th century German poet, wrote, sleep is good, death is better. But of course, the best thing would be to never have been born at all. It's important that we compare and contrast antinatalism from voluntary childlessness. It's also important that we differentiate between local antinatalism and global antinatalism. Local antinatalists oppose birth in particular cases or under certain circumstances, whereas global antinatalists oppose birth by all parents. Okay, I'll take a sip of this. I'm not going to read through this entire page, just parts of it, and then I'm going to show one more website, and then I'm going to wrap the stream up. All right. Do you guys have any comments on this? Okay, the increase in involuntary childlessness. Why have we seen such a decrease in childbirth in the last 50 years? We've seen this for many reasons. One of the primary factors is the increase in women's education. Okay. Let me take a sip of my drink here. I'm going to read that one more time. This is not Dr. Dunbar saying this. This is from this antinatalist website that's saying this. And this one point right here, is going to be a bit of a head scratcher for a lot of people. Okay. It's going to be a bit of a head scratcher because a lot of people have never thought about this. But in me doing this stream, for the people who are saying, Dr. Dunbar, you're telling women not to get educated. Nope, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. We're just investigating this particular thing that is out there that a lot of people don't know about. So let me go back. Okay, we've seen this. Okay, increase in voluntary childlessness. Why have we seen such a decrease in childbirth in the last 50 years? We've seen this for many reasons. One of the primary factors is the increase in women's education. All over the world, we see a consistent trend as women's education increases, fertility rates decrease. Women's education, the most important factor in parentheses. Okay, so these are bulleted out reasons. Women's education, lifestyle impediment of parenthood, women's empowerment in the workplace, the availability of contraceptives, urban living, survival being less dependent on family, the decline of religion, declining child mortality, the rising cost of child rearing. Okay. This link is in the description box below. So this graph here is from the World Bank. Straight from the source. It's from the World Bank. It says the fertility rate since the 1960s, total global fertility rates have been cut in half. So that's right around the time of the baby boom. When my folks, probably your folks, were born, there was a baby boom. That was in part due to World War II, but also the economics of that time, at least in the United States. The United States had the only real functioning economy at that time, right? So our economy was good. So when the economy is good, that favors family formation. But as we've seen over time, other countries have caught up. Our political leaders and arguably the private sector, they made decisions to deindustrialize. So jobs were sent away. So the economic environment in our country changed. Okay. So that's showing the Middle East / North Africa, South Asia, Latin America, and the Caribbean, North America, East Asia and the Pacific, Europe and Central Asia. All those numbers, a good number. Yeah, all these lines are decreasing. Okay. Since the 1960s, total global fertility rates have been cut in half. This is coming from the World Bank. This reduction is predominantly due to voluntary childlessness. Okay. So antinatalism is a philosophical position. In comparison to voluntary childlessness, antinatalism is not a lifestyle choice, but a philosophical position which contends that procreation is morally wrong. Some antinatalists argue that this applies to all humans. Others argue that this applies to all non-human sentient beings as well. Antinatalists are not necessarily pro-mortalism. Okay. And I don't know what pro-mortalism means. Please smash that like button if you haven't. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. This link is in the description box, as long as YouTube does not take it away or take the stream down. Okay, so I'm going to read these two paragraphs, and then I'll read this next section. Then I'll, if you guys want to look at this, you can look at it yourself. Okay, in 1991, I was 14 going on 15. Who knew in 1991 that all this was going on? Okay, in 1991, the voluntary human extinction movement was formed, encouraging people to stop having children, primarily for environmental purposes. Their motto: live long and die out. Okay, it's also important that we differentiate antinatalism from pro-mortalism. Pro-mortalism is a philosophical position and social movement that assigns a positive value to death. Pro-mortalists believe that the morally best thing to do would be to end suffering by ending our own lives. Pro-mortalists say that the only thing that keeps most of them from killing themselves is the lack of willpower. Okay, arguments for antinatalism. Okay, now let's dive a bit deeper into the arguments for antinatalism, i.e. the arguments in favor of not having children. First, overpopulation. The UN projects that the world will surpass 11 billion people by the year 2100. Many antinatalists believe that human extinction is inevitable. The only uncertainty is when. Antinatalists argue that the sooner the better. Antinatalists argue that sooner is better than later. Why might antinatalists believe that the sooner we rid the planet of humans, the better? So that was the prediction around 2019. I don't know if this is still valid. Okay, you will die someday, and it's probably going to be very, very unpleasant. And don't forget, everyone you love will die too. More than 56.5 million people die every year. That's more than 170 people per minute. Every minute. The surest way to stop people from dying is to stop having children. I'm going to go a little bit further. Please smash the like button if you haven't. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. Doesn't this sound a little bit like Lean On Me? Go ahead, Sam's. Jump. Why prolong it? Jump. You're just a crackhead anyway. Go ahead, jump. I don't want to jump, Mr. Clark. I don't want to jump. Okay. Life is suffering. The Buddha's first noble truth was life is suffering. Now the Buddha invented the Eightfold Path as a methodology to end suffering. But what's the surest way to end suffering? Why not simply never exist? Suffering is not associated with a lack of being, but with being. Okay, this gets into some I don't know if you guys ever saw the movie Hellraiser with Pinhead, but now we're getting into a little bit of that. The asymmetry of pleasure and pain, why particularly human life. Why particularly human life? Now, some people wonder why it's particularly human life that matters. According to P.W. Zapfi, a Norwegian metaphysician, humans are particularly capable of suffering because we are the only species aware of its own mortality, the only species with such evolved level of consciousness and unique ability to suffer. We're the only species aware of its insignificance in the cosmos. And we're the only species able to imagine the suffering of billions of creatures and feel compassion for their suffering. I think I'll read this one. I know I keep saying that. Birth is non-consensual. Okay, there's a kid crying because birth is non-consensual. I didn't ask to be born. A common sentence which implies that birth is not consensual. There's no escape without a very high cost. Okay. Suicide is physically, emotionally, and morally excruciating. If no consent is possible, the default response should be inaction. Okay, philanthropic anti-natalism versus misanthropic anti-natalism. I'm going to skip over this one. Human treatment of each other. There you have a cartoon there of a priest with a bloody robe. Mass murder, genocide, war, torture, rape, kidnapping, slavery. It has been estimated by the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United States that 77 billion farm animals are killed globally every year. 10 million dairy cows, genetically modified and forcibly impregnated every year. More than 100 million animals are killed every year for testing in the US alone. We test our drugs on living, non-human animals. Climatologist Wines and Nicholas found that there's nothing an individual can do to curb their greenhouse gas emissions than have fewer children. They calculated that due to the food and products consumed, having one less child would be more effective than switching to veganism, living without a car, or recycling, to only name a few. Guys, that brings up a good point. That brings up a really good point. Okay, and this is Okay. I know that I'm not the only one who has thought of this. I can't be the only one who's thought of this. Even if you electrify all the vehicles, our cars, our buses, our trains, our airplanes, even if you electrify the infrastructure completely, you're still going to get lots of carbon dioxide generated every day, every hour, every minute, every second. Does anyone know where that carbon dioxide is coming from? Even if you electrify all the vehicles, even if you electrify everything and get rid of fossil fuel usage, you're still going to get massive carbon dioxide production every day. And where's that coming from? Anybody? Aquateki? Boom. You're like my kindred spirit. Us. Right now. I'm generating carbon dioxide. You guys watching this, you're generating carbon dioxide. Okay. In your sleep, you're generating carbon dioxide. Do any of you guys have pets? Dogs, cats, hamsters, whatever. Okay. If you have pets, if you have multiple pets, they're generating carbon dioxide. So even if you electrify everything and get rid of the combustion engine, you still have billions of people on the planet generating carbon dioxide. So the only way to take care of that problem is to have fewer humans. I know that I'm not the only one who's thought of this, as we're seeing here. All right. Let me just go back. Even when I try to stop this, there are more intriguing points on this website. All right. I'm going to read this again. Climatologist Wines and Nicholas found that there is nothing an individual can do to curb their greenhouse gas emissions than have fewer children. That read kind of weird. Climatologist Wines and Nicholas found that there's nothing an individual can do to curb the greenhouse gas emissions. I think this means other than have fewer children. They calculated that due to the food and products consumed, having one less child would be more effective than switching to veganism, living without a car, or recycling. Too many to only name a few. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, right now, my car is sitting dormant. My car is not running, so it's not contributing carbon dioxide to the environment. But I am, and you guys are. So even if you got rid of all fossil fuels, we humans, we're still, and our pets, we're still generating carbon dioxide, if that's a problem. Okay. This has been hit upon on several channels. According to the cost of a child, according to the United States Department of Agriculture, it costs $233,618 and 18,000 hours to raise a child from birth to age 17. Of course, these numbers will be different in different countries. What else could this money and time be spent on? Okay. Adoption. Many people recommend adoption as an alternative to a person having their own biological children, but many anti-natalist thinkers say that this does not address the underlying cause. There just needs to be fewer humans. Also, there are loads of ethical implications of adoption that the subject is honestly worth its own night exploring. Procreation licensing. One proposed solution is to institute state-controlled procreation licensing. That would require background screening, IQ testing, minimum income, and parenting classes, but there is a lot of pushback on this. Exactly who decides which people, I've heard this before, exactly who decides which people are allowed to be parents? Do we want the state to control how we raise our children? This sounds a lot like eugenics. Okay, guys. I'm not gonna read over the rest of this. You guys, if you want to read this some more, this link is below in the description box. YouTube does remove links at times if they think it's spam. The link is here. But I watch a lot of content on YouTube. But I watch numerous things. And since I was confronted 2 years ago about whether or not I believed in science because of a voting choice I made, I investigated the whole climate discussion, the climate debate, and this is a part of the climate debate. Is it a problem to have too many humans on the planet? Okay, that's a part of this. It's not a part that's always talked about, but there are some people in pretty high places thinking about this. And if you don't think they are, I have a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn, as they say. Okay, and so you got to think about this. Tomorrow night is the first debate, as our politicians are talking to us and they're throwing these policies around, and the Green New Deal, and we have to get rid of the combustion engine. And when you see all the world leaders meeting at the UN and the World Bank and the World Economic Forum, while we're distracted with the master plumber and balloons popping and judges in Georgia getting arrested, and Fannie, and Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce and all these things, the WNBA, they're talking about these things. They're making decisions on our lives. And your parents and your grandparents are looking around and saying there are fewer children. Well, people are contemplating this. You don't know they're contemplating this, but people are contemplating this and making decisions. Non-Swirl Zone made a very, very interesting comment. He says, but we don't have enough green forests to offset human carbon dioxide. Is that true? There are scientists who say that the world is greening. The world is actually greening. Okay. And some of the carbon dioxide, I thought about this as well. All the carbon dioxide that's going into the atmosphere, is it just sitting there baking us? I don't think it is. I think some of it's going. Last Easter, April 2023 or 2022, I did a stream on Henry's Law. Gases go into liquids, and gases come out of liquids. That's called Henry's Law. Gases dissolve in liquids. So I believe, and other scientists have said this, there's crosstalk between the atmosphere and the oceans and our bodies of water. Okay, and I have a slide here that shows this. This is how aquatic organisms live. Let me see if I can find it really, really quickly. Look at this. I didn't mean to talk for an hour, but I talked for a whole hour. And I was curious, if there's so much carbon dioxide being generated, is it just sitting in the atmosphere, or is it going somewhere else? Where is that slide? Thank you guys for being here. You guys could be somewhere else listening to something else. That might have been it, but I also color coded one. I had a color coded version of this chart. That's the one I'm looking for. Okay, well, let me go back to this one. Guys, I appreciate, and gals, if there are any gals out there, I appreciate your patience. Patience is a virtue. My high school basketball coach used to tell us. Let's see if that'll load up for me. Yeah, so here you can see carbon dioxide in air. Okay, so the percentages in air. And this is, where is this from? I just pulled this off of Google. So the percent carbon dioxide in air is 0.033. And the reason I went looking for this is because I wanted to know if our atmosphere is being flooded with carbon dioxide to that degree, have we increased by an order of magnitude? So an order of magnitude in the science world, that's tenfold. So if we've increased by an order of magnitude or 2 orders of magnitude, then I'd be really, really scared. So the percentage of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, according to this chart, is 0.03. So if we were at 0.3 or 3%, then I'd be really, really afraid. But we're at 0.03. And I haven't been able to find a modern real-time reading of what that number is. But what I want you guys to see is that in the atmosphere, it's 0.03. And in seawater, it's 1.4. So that is, let's see, at least 1 order of magnitude higher. In seawater, it's at least 1 order of magnitude higher than in the atmosphere. So there's more carbon dioxide in the sea, in the oceans, than in the atmosphere. And our planet is mostly water; it's not land. So that there's crosstalk between the atmosphere and the water. That's what I'm trying to get you guys to see. So going back to No Swirl Zone's comment about we don't have enough foliage to process the carbon dioxide generated, you also have to consider how much is diffusing into the water. That's what I'm trying to say. I'll show this one more time. You guys can look this up. Oxygen. We need oxygen to live. The percentage in the atmosphere is about 21%. You can see it's more concentrated in the oceans. So the atmosphere is 21%. In seawater in the oceans is 34%. So you guys got to keep that in mind when you're being told, okay, the atmosphere is being flooded with carbon dioxide. Well, where is it going? It's plant food, so the plants are eating some of it, and it's also going into liquids. Okay, think about that. Remember that. All right. Let's see. Yeah, Aquateki. I remember this when I was younger as well. There was a big hysteria over deforestation. And at one point, the concern, since we're talking about different concerns at different times, at one point, the concern was not global warming, it was global cooling. So they were worried about that at one point. So these things change over time. And another opinion is that nobody really knows what's going on. Okay. Non-Swirl Zone says, that reminds me of pseudo flat earth debate. Is the CO2 just sitting there above us? I don't think it is. I don't think it is scientifically. I don't think it is. Andre says, thank you for the topic. It's a nice break from the typical stuff. I know what you're talking about, the typical stuff, but that typical stuff is important too. Okay. One more site, and then I'm done, because I'm at an hour and 10 minutes, and I need to relax a little bit. So I have to go back to war tomorrow. Do you ever have those days when you intend to work on something and then you get sidetracked and have to work on something else? That happened today. This one, because I want you guys to see that the environmentalists are concerned about having too many humans on the planet as well. Passport OG, thank you for stopping through. He says, what effect does CO2 have on raising the pH of water? Do we know? Yeah, so if you get too much carbon dioxide in water, you are likely to form carbonic acid. Okay, so that's the concern for this as well, is that we're acidifying the oceans. I have not seen any hardcore data that's killing things, or I don't know enough about that. But yes, when you dissolve, well, think about your soda. You dissolve carbon dioxide in liquid, you're going to get carbonic acid. Anyway, and thank you for stopping through, Passport OG. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys that there are other sides to this. So you see a picture here of I don't know why they chose I don't know if she's white or Latina, but it's an interesting choice here. But you see a man and a woman holding the earth. So in the top of this website says, stop having kids. Okay. And this is called stophavingkids.org/anti-natalism. Okay. So we're just going to go through this really, really quickly. Aquateki, thank you for the generous Cash App. I appreciate the support. If anyone else wants to make a donation to the channel, my Cash App and PayPal are here. And for that, Aquateki, I'm going to play another drop just for you.
Roger me, welcome me, anything. Hello, Earth.
For those of you who are confused about that, that's a callback to the early 1980s Transformers cartoon. Aquateki's avatar is Jazz. That was a part of my childhood, the Transformers. So I made drops for Aquateki, as he's supported me over here quite a bit. Reynolds, thank you for stopping through. He says, have over 45 trees on my property and just got bids to cut down 5. There is a fungus going around in Jersey affecting the trees. Any info on this area? There are antifungal pesticide active ingredients. If you don't want to cut the trees down, I would look into that before chopping them down. But that's in the agriculture sector. The agriculture sector, fungal pesticides are important tools used on crops. Okay, we're just about at the end here, guys. So again, this is an interesting piece of artwork. But you see a man and a woman holding the earth. I don't know if they're holding that in place of a baby, but I think that's what the artist is trying to tell us. So what is anti-natalism? Okay, we've already got a feel for what that is. Here's a guy holding a poster that says normalize anti-natalism. Stophavingkids.org. So for all you people out there assuming that your children or your children's children are going to have children, don't be so presumptuous. There are a lot of movements and a lot of forces at work today. This woman, what is one unselfish reason to have children? Okay. Stophavingkids.org. So let's see. There's a graveyard. Looks like it could be the Arlington National Cemetery. That says a better world is a world where we prioritize caring for who Earth already has. Okay. This says, quote, as we have seen, nobody is lucky enough not to be born. Everybody is unlucky enough to have been born. And particularly bad luck it is. David Benatar. When I was researching this, that name came up, David Benatar. So I think David Benatar might have been the face of this movement, or he might have been the one spearheading this movement. So keep that in the back of your mind. We might ask the master teacher about this. Who was David Benatar? But his name kept coming up with this. So this reads, creating new humans should not be taken lightly. It could easily be the most impactful and regretful decision someone ever makes. Why not strive for making a positive and needed impact by helping life that's already here and in need, rather than gambling with new life that wouldn't have otherwise been harmed or deprived by not coming into this existence? This says, shit natalists say bingo, SHKE edition. So they have this bingo game here. Who will pay taxes? You are demons. Life is a gift. You are going to die alone. Only selfish people have kids. Who funds you? So we should just kill all humans. Okay, so there are numerous links here. If you guys want to read more, I would say I don't know why you would, but you need, I think everybody needs to just know what's going on. Okay. And that was my purpose for doing this. I'm not supporting this. But as I've been looking around at everything, and again, there are multiple sectors of YouTube. There's a huge science sector. One of my favorite podcasts now is Demystify Science. There are people talking about these things, and I heard about antinatalists in a climate and environment talk, and this is something that the climate and environment people, they're thinking about in terms of solutions for saving the Earth, which is why it's critical to understand if the Earth is really at danger, or if the Earth is really in danger. And also just knowing that point that I just made, that's a very, very important point, in that even if you eliminate all the technology and you still have the people, you're still going to have carbon dioxide generated, profuse amounts of carbon dioxide generated. Okay, guys, I'm at the end. I did go a little bit longer than I wanted to. I'm going to read some comments here. Oh, and Aquateki, this is a good point. People forget trees need maintenance too. Well, trees undergo respiration, so trees generate carbon dioxide as well. Okay, so us terrestrial creatures, we generate carbon dioxide, but the trees, the plant foliage do as well, because they perform cellular respiration as well. Passport OG says AI computing, Bitcoin mining, and commercial bee farming is far outpacing pollution from individuals. My story says better to have never been, David Benatar. Aquateki says facts, Passport OG. Vegan Equilibrium, I've never seen you before. I think we have an anti-natalist, everyone. He says, can you name one unselfish plus ethical reason to procreate? Well, Vegan Equilibrium, first of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. I want this to be a safe space. It's a science channel. And science isn't about always agreeing. It's about multiple points of view. Okay. So he says, can you name one unselfish ethical reason to procreate? Well, vegan equilibrium, it part of the way I would answer that is, what are your cultural values? What are your spiritual values? What are your values? What's your culture? Because in as I described at the beginning of this stream, one of the basic teachings of Christianity is to be fruitful and multiply. Okay. And in families, in many families, the expectation is that you will further the bloodline and have future generations. So it really, a lot of it depends upon what your personal values are, what your culture is, and what you believe and a lot of families, and a lot of us are dealing with this. A lot of families believe that it's your quote unquote duty to have children and to have another generation. So if you watch Game of Thrones, it's the king's duty to have an heir to continue the bloodline. So that's how I would answer that. Some see it as selfish to not further the bloodline and to not have future generations of a family. So it depends on where you're coming from. He says, is it okay to use people as pawns? Who's using people as pawns? Who do you believe is using people as pawns? He says, I host a Gnostic gathering live stream every weekend on my channel. We welcome all viewpoints. Feel free to come over sometime. Well, I'm a scientist, so I'm curious. So maybe I'll take you up. I'll take you up on that, and I'll peek in and take a look. Depending upon what you're talking about, I don't know how long I'll stay. But yeah, vegan. Well, is this the name of your channel? Vegan Equilibrium? Is that the name of your is that the name of your channel? Vegan Equilibrium. Andre says House of the Dragon. Yeah, if you watched this week, poor King Aegon, he lost the heir to his throne. Andre says he's definitely an anti-natalist. Just look at his channel. Okay. I guess Andre just looked you up, Vegan Equilibrium. Akuseki says using people as pawns is a function of one's moral compass. An amoral pragmatist would think twice. Okay. Vegan Equilibrium. Okay. I will make a note of this and I'll take a peek over at what you're talking about. And I think, yeah, the only data I showed in the stream was those plots of the fertility plots. But I really wanted to do this to just create awareness that there are individuals like Vegan Equilibrium who it sounds like who see the world in that way, in that it would be selfish to have children. Okay. And what are the ethical reasons to procreate? And you know, there are people, I'm going to end on this. There are people who are looking around at the world right now and who are losing hope. Someone in my circle said, why would you? I would not bring a child into this world as it is right now. So there are people who are looking around and losing hope and saying, why would you do that to a child? Why would you bring a child into this world right now? So there's a lot going on right now. My story says, which video best summarizes your channel? I think that was towards you, Vegan Equilibrium. So guys, I'm going to close with this. There's a content creator I watch named Tom Bilyeu, and he did a really good interview with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. The debate is tomorrow night between President Biden and former President Trump. And I'm not telling you guys what to do, but Robert F. Kennedy, they've kept him out. I think because of his skepticism over the medication related to the human health crisis from 4 years ago. I think he kind of got canceled. But I'm not telling anyone what to do, but Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he sounded very reasonable to me. And it sounded like he has his eye and his finger on the pulse of the major issues facing the country. So if I remember, I'll put that link in the description box for this video. But just when we're being campaigned to, there's a lot of propaganda, there's a lot of spin, there are a lot of untruths, and you really have to do the research yourself to understand what's being talked about and why and what's really going on. So everyone, it's 9 o'clock. I didn't mean to talk for a whole hour and a half, but I guess once you get started and you get into a flow, time flies by. So I hope someone got something from this. At the very least, everybody, there are anti-natalists and there are people who are afraid of the planet being overpopulated with human beings. So when you see the environmental arguments going on, when you see other things, when you see other arguments taking place, keep this in the back of your mind. All right, everyone, this is Big Discussions 76, Science and Technology. Aquateki, thank you. Appreciate this. A lot of people will be shocked to hear something like this. I know that my mom, my folks, her brothers and sisters, and my mother is a devout Christian. I mean, I talked about religion in this, and that in that zeitgeist, in that realm of thought, no one's thinking about consent of being brought here. It's just what you do. It's just you reproduce. It's just what you do. It's what you're supposed to do. But this is another viewpoint. We can't receive consent from people to be brought here. No, you can't. And you hear that quite a bit. Children didn't ask to be here. Okay, you hear that quite a bit. But at the very least, what I want people to understand is that this is a point of view that exists. So think about who's making decisions about your lives. Think about who the higher ups are. Think about some of the policies that you're seeing, and think about why certain policies are being put in place. Is this by accident? Is this happenstance? Or is there a reason why certain things are being put in place? Shout out to Diamond Dave. Our environments are curated and our environments are intentionally set up for us. Nothing is happening by accident. All right, everyone. My name is Dr. Anwar Yusuf Dunbar. This is Big Discussions 76, Science and Technology. Tonight, we talked about a little bit of ecology, a little bit of natalism, a little bit of environmentalism. We talked about a bunch of different things here tonight. Please like, share, and subscribe, especially if you're new. Please, if you want someone to learn about this and hear about this, please share this out. This will shock a lot of people. If you want to donate something to the channel, my Cash App and PayPal are here. Thank you once again, Aquateki, for your donation. Okay. Wow. There are Christian antinatalists. Okay. Wow. Now my question is, can those things go together with one of the directives from God being be fruitful and multiply? I'm trying to finish up here. Vegan equilibrium. You're holding me up. Okay. So my Cash App and PayPal are there. I'm also a writer, finishing up a book. So if you are a reader, I have a newsletter. and it is here. Nothing too high tech in the newsletter. I'm just putting down my thoughts, and I'm featuring. I'm recommending content from my print library and my digital library. There's a 2-paragraph greeting there. And you hit that subscription button there and you enter in your email address. Again, nothing too high tech, nothing too controversial. But yeah, for the readers. Diamond Dave said there aren't a lot of readers on YouTube. That's why people are coming to YouTube, so they can just watch and be entertained. All right, we have another one who I don't recognize. Kron. Kron rhymes with Tron. He says, if people want to be on heaven, means the earth sucks. So why keep bringing people here? I think we have another anti-natalist here. All right, everyone, that's all I've got. So with that, everyone, enjoy the rest of your night. Be good to one another. Be good to the earth. If you're watching on the playback and you have comments on this, please leave those in the comment section. And yeah, as I always say, as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Always try to do your best. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. Have a good night. Bye-bye.